Hi everybody, welcome to video number 3 on surds. We're going to look at in this video rationalising surds. Okay, so when it asks you to rationalise, now it might say simplify or it might say rationalise. What it means is it wants you to get rid of the surd, the root, on the bottom of the fraction. Okay, so it does not want the denominator to have any kind of surd on the bottom of the fraction. It does not want the denominator to have any kind of surd involved in it. Okay, now it's very straightforward. People overcomplicate it. It's not very tricky. We're just going to roll with it, and we are going to simplify or rationalise to root 3. Now, we cannot change the value of this. This number has to stay as it is. 2 root 3 has a value. It has a value that is some sort of decimal, okay? We can't change the value of it. So whatever I do to one bit of it, the top, I have to do the same to the bottom. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to times the top and the bottom by the root on the bottom. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because you will recall from surd video number 1 that root 3 times root 3 is just 3. So that gets rid of the surd on the bottom. Now if I've times the bottom by root 3, I've got to do the same to the top to keep the value the same. And 2 times root 3 is 2 root 3. So the answer is just 2 root 3 over 3. Now if you look on your calculator, if I put in just the question I gave you, which was 2 over root 3, it already rationalises it for you. Okay, so it's fairly straightforward. Let's look at another one. Something like 10 over root 5. So same thing, times the top and bottom by root 5. On the top we get 10 root 5, and on the bottom we get 5. Now here is a little extra step you can do. Think of this like x's again. I've got 10x and I divide it by 5. What have I got? I've got 10 root 5 divided by 5. I have got 2 root 5 because 10 divided by 5 is 2. So that is 2 root 5. Again, you can check it. 10 over root 5. Happy days. Okay, now just be aware, if you had something like this, okay, and you only need to times by the root on the bottom, so I only need to times by root 2, okay. 4 times root 2 is 4 root 2. The bottom, root 2 times root 2 is 2, and I've got to times it by 3 to make 6. 4 over 6 is the same as 2 over 3. So I'm just simplifying those numbers in front. The root 2 stays the same. It is 2 root 2 over 3. Okay. You can here times the top and the bottom by 3 root 2 if you would like to. The reason we're not going to do that by choice is because it makes it more complicated. So 4 times 3 root 2 makes 12 root 2. Root 2 times root 2 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9. So we get 9 times 2, which makes 18. You could then simplify that to 6 root 2 over 9 and divide it by 3 makes 2 root 2 over 3. Same answer, longer method. Okay, right, example number 2, not that piece of paper because we've already done that. Example number 2 is if you had something different on the top and the bottom. So if you had something like this, a more complicated bottom, if you will. Okay. Now here, if we just times by root 3 on the top and the bottom, we'd end up having to times this too by root 3, which would mean we'd end up with 2 root 3 somewhere on the bottom of our fraction. Okay, so instead, if this has a plus or a minus in it, it's an expression rather than just a surd on its own, we are going to times the top and the bottom by this expression, but we replace the plus sign with a minus. Now if I times that by the top, I have to do the same to the bottom and vice versa. Okay, so then we're going to split it up into the top and the bottom. So the top means we've got to do 3 times 2 minus root 3. Expanding that single bracket, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times root 3 is 3 root 3. Let's look at the bottom. Now the bottom will be slightly more complex because it is 2 brackets. I've got 2 plus root 3 and 2 minus root 3. Again, I don't mind how you expand the brackets, as I said in my expanding the brackets surd video, but I like to do it as a grid. So 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times root 3 is 2 root 3, 2 times minus root 3 is minus 2 root 3, and minus root 3 times root 3 is minus root 3 times root 3 is 3. So the bottom becomes 4 plus 2 root 3 minus 2 root 3 minus 3. What happens if I do 2 root 3, take away 2 root 3? I get nothing. So I'm left with 4 take away 3, which is 1. So this becomes, the thing we had at the top, becomes 6 minus 3 root 3 on the top and 1 on the bottom. Now if I divide anything by 1, that is just the same as itself. So it is 6 minus 3 root 3. Okay. The only one that would be worse than that would if you had something like this, where you had an expression on the top and on the bottom. So something like this. Okay. So same thing as before. We times the top and the bottom by 4 plus 2 root 3. You're changing this sign here. Now, in your exam, your GCSE, you would get a mark just for writing that step out. So if you can only remember that that becomes a plus, that's worth writing out. Okay? Right, so then my top is 5 plus root 3, 4 plus 2 root 3. Let's do it at a grid so that we don't mess it up. If you don't do it in a grid, absolutely hunky-dory, just make sure you're not messing it up. Okay? 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times root 3, 4 root 3, that's a positive. 5 times 2 root 3 is 10 root 3. Here's a tricky one. Root 3 times root 3 is 3, times by 2 is 6. So 20 plus 4 root 3 plus 10 root 3 plus 6 is 26 plus 14 root 3. Top all done and dusted. Okay, and here we go with the bottom. So 4 minus 2 root 3, 4 plus 2 root 3. And a nice beautiful grid. 4 minus 2 root 3, 4 plus 2 root 3. 4 times 4, 16. 4 times minus 2 root 3, minus 8 root 3. 4 times 2 root 3 plus 8 root 3. Root 2 root 3 times 2 root 3. Well, root 3 times root 3 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12, and it's a minus. So, again, if you need to write that out, 2 root 3 times minus 2 root 3, 2 times 2 minus 4, root 3 times root 3, 3 minus 12. That's fine. Okay, write it out if you need to. Okay, and then we're going to tidy. Oh no, we're going to write it out and then we're going to tidy. So, 16 plus 8 root 3 minus 8 root 3 minus 12. 8 root 3, take away 8 root 3, gets rid of it. So we're left with 16, take away 12, which makes 4. So on our top, we have 26 plus 14 root 3. And on our bottom, we have 4. Now, we cannot divide 26 by 4 nor 14 by 4, but we can simplify it. We could divide the top and bottom by 2 to make it in its simplest form. And when we divide the top and bottom by 2, hopefully you agree, we get 13 plus 7 root 3 over 2. And that, my friends, is rationalising surds.